So what's up, man? Kick it. Born a male, I knew soon enough. In a world that is rough and tough, due to reality which has to be met, my image is molded and set. Isolation starts young, so we shoot each other for fun. And if we fell upon our knee, don't cry, boy, stand up and be manly. Why can't men let out their feelings of love, fear and grief, instead of the traditional manly game, over and over and over again? In our society, trying to change male domination, now that would be hazardous. But those rules cause unscrupulous annihilation, as we are bred to be soldiers of the next generation. Shoot his eye down. Shoot his nose out. Bang!
As kids, we were born open, unself-conscious, accepting and caring. So what happened? Why did we learn to get tough?
People laugh at you and say, baby, baby. Cry, baby, cry, baby, cry, baby. Yeah.
The men get more hurt than the females because the men sort of can't express themselves because they're afraid they'll be termed as fag or something if they express themselves.
When I was a kid, it was really hard to sort of talk about all the things I was excited about because I was afraid that, they'd be laughed at. That it wouldn't be worthwhile to anybody. So I could think of any number of times when there were times I'd love to have been able to just really open out and talk to somebody, but it was never safe. There was always the knowledge in my mind that they'd put it down, that it would be judged, that it wouldn't measure up, wouldn't be appropriate to some image or other.
Slide down the slide. Yes, please slide down the slide. I want it. There's possum poo on it. Okay. Oh, poo. Oh, yeah. I'm going to slide on possum poo. Who cares? I'm not even sliding on it. You don't cry. You don't cry. No. You just piss. You just punch them over and punch them into bits so they're not alive and I can do it back to you.
I think the kids at the school who did the bullying the most were the ones who'd been knocked around the most. But I didn't think that then. At the time, it felt terribly personal, they were aiming at me. That's how it felt at the time.
Nearly down.
Is it uncool to pay attention to how we're feeling, to understand what's going on inside? Are guys still trying to ignore their feelings?
Our parents were always working, and you can't really turn to your younger brother or sister because they know as much as you do, right? And now most of us have learned to live with what we go through anyway.
I go to my friends and talk to them, mainly all female friends, because I can't really express my feelings to male friends, if you know what I mean?
I find it's coming from a small island and everybody's very friendly. It's a close-knit community. You can be open with everybody. Having lots of friends, a lot to do with it. You become very confident in yourself, express yourself the way you feel. My mother and father were very understanding. If there was any problems and I felt like crying or I felt like laughing, anything like that, yes, I would show it and have no bother about it,
My sort of outlet is I can talk to people. I've got people around me that I can talk, knowing that they're not going to, spread it around or hassle me for it later. I keep active. I play a lot of sports, do a lot of acting and singing, so that, I find singing really helps me. like just sitting there yelling my lungs out and having an in general good time. You've got a lock and key, and the lock is on when you're in public, but when you cry, crying's the key. Not only crying, it could be yelling, screaming, hitting a pillow, just something to open it up and let it out.
When I'm hurting, what do I talk to other people? Yeah, most of the time I talk to other people, but sometimes well, actually most of the time I bottle it up, actually, when you think about it. Bottle it up and just keep it to myself. You'll probably find that with a lot of other guys as well. They normally keep them to themselves. Depends what sort of guy you are. You can't talk about it, and all you want to do is just let out something, so you let out anger instead of anything else.
Why was it fashionable in the past for us to bottle up our feelings? Is it because guys who let their feelings out appropriately tend to walk away from fights?
I just have vivid memories of playing war games with cousins, huddled up together in the back of a little shed. You know, was the plane going across the English Channel ready to parachute out, and then we would parachute out, and it was just total fantasy games.
When you're small, you know, of course you played with guns, you know, everyone played with guns, you know.
Bang, bang.
You know, I shot you, you're dead, you know.
It's just like when the kids watch Ninja Turtles. I'm Raphael, no, I'm Leonardo, no, I'm this, and getting knives out and start playing, you know, plastic knives. And
But I see that now as the way society was setting us up to say, this is potentially your role at some stage in life.
At about, when I was about grade 1, I started thinking about that a little bit anyway. First thought, oh, war, this, that. As I get older, I have to go into war and if it breaks out. But now, like Brad said, you know, you have to. You got no choice. Either you don't go, they kill you or you die.
All the governments, like, just say, like, they got a little dispute, let's fight it out. That's what's happening all over the world, just fighting it out.
Men don't need to express their aggression or their creative power or their sexual power by fighting, by having wars. We can do anything, basically, but we can express that power, that masculine power, in a very positive way. We can do it in a way that doesn't hurt others and doesn't hurt ourselves, because it is a very positive thing, that energy.
Do you think that part of growing up and being tough for lots of guys is about hanging around in groups and becoming one of the guys?
If you're trying to make an impression or make somebody think different of you, put up a mask. But if you just want someone to know you for who you are, you don't. If someone's hassling you, you're sort of going to put up a barrier to make it look like you're fairly tough so they won't hassle you.
Hitting my teens was a difficult time. I found it hard to stay in line. My teacher would throw me out of class. I'd just pull a face from behind the glass. I'd learned the lesson and learnt it well, that I can't be hurt inside my shell. In our gang, we felt real strong. Amongst ourselves, we could do no wrong. And girls, man, well, they were just toys put on the planet just to please us boys. It felt much better playing boys' games than take the risk and being called names. But the put-downs had a major cost, and I didn't realize what I had lost was the natural pride in what I do, cause judging others, I judge me too.
At 15, I felt a longing for closeness, for intimacy, but I couldn't express that because it wasn't seen to be normal to be vulnerable, and that's what you are when you're expressing a need like that. So at that age, it is a lot easier to be a guy, to change that into aggression or assertiveness.
We couldn't bear to get really close. It was too hard. And that we operated under a lot of terror. Terror of being humiliated by our friends. All we presented to each other was our stories, our bravado, our image. We could create it what you wanted it to be, but everyone was doing the same.
Because there's so much pressure placed on someone to be either a, football hero or a really wealthy businessman, it's portrayed back through the media. You've got to be an achiever. You've got to make it, and there's so much pressure on that of course you're going to lie about it if you're not as good as you think everyone thinks you should be. You're going to make up stories about yourself, and eventually get to a stage where it's so competitive around guys that you just can't say anything honest.
Basically, what it comes down to is, it's like the I got a fish this big story, but with your masculinity. It's I've got a masculinity this big, you haven't seen anything, mate, this big, and it sort of, gets to the, sort of starting, see that door over there? From there to here, mate.
But being a guy, you're not allowed to enjoy, you're not allowed to, in a sense, discover your sexuality. It's like very much it's not a discovery, it's a conquer. You've got to
go! And they're off, and they're in, and they're working for the hyman, and it's James in front. No, Justin slipped out, and he's coming on the outside, which doesn't count. But he's back.
In a sense, it doesn't have to be rape and pillage. There's no rush. That's what I think would have helped most of all, that there is no rush.
Slam dunk and no dribbling. Justin wins it by the nose and cuts it off with a perfect dismount. What a performance, that's got to be a 10.
There was no older male in my life who was saying, well, maybe you're going through this now, or feeding back anything. There was never a sort of inequality or safety to ask questions and have them answered honestly, or get feedback about how you're going. You're supposed to be a professional at it without having served any apprenticeship.
When we hang out in groups, it's much easier to hide behind our masks, so we pretend not to care and hide our true and real feelings. Dropping that mask, even briefly, can take real guts.
Close friends that I have, you don't have to worry about, because they know you when you let your mask down, so you can put the mask up or down, it doesn't matter, because they already know you. It just doesn't matter.
If we started talking about this, like what we're talking about now over there, everyone would probably just go, thanks, and like everyone would just give you heaps of slack. And
it's one of the reasons why people put on masks. It's just because they're afraid of letting their true selves show, and just afraid that people think that their true selves are just fools or idiots, just afraid to be made fools of.
When I actually found a girl who I really did think was nice, I hadn't been trying to impress, and she liked me for who I was. And I sort of realised that I started to like myself and thought, yeah, I'm happy with who I am, and I don't need to impress. People will like me for who I am, and if they don't, then, that's not my loss.
Like, probably after this, like tomorrow at lunchtime, I wouldn't expect, like, for the three of these guys to come up and, like, start having another conversation like this. Yeah. Like, all four of us would probably, like, never talk about it again. Probably just do it, and then, like, it's in the past, don't worry about it. But, like, if you have a conversation like this with your friends, it keeps coming up. But none of us really know each other that well. Yeah. It's like, it's just like, we'd just be hoping for it. Everyone doesn't mix together. But that's why I reckon it should be. I reckon just stuff the groups, you just be yourself. then everyone just mixed together. Be a lot less war in the world, I tell you.
If we drop the mask, we allow ourselves to be honest with ourselves and each other. Do you think that people would prefer to be liked for who they really are?
When they judge other people, they're like judging what they don't like about themselves.
I get along with most people. There's very few people that I actually don't like. All the so-called rejects at school, I can find their nice side, and I talk to them and I find out what they're interested in and what they like, and I can like be friends with them for that time until they start they break out of their nice side.
Beneath every person's attitude and mask is a caring, loving person. All you need to do is like open the door to it.
It's harder to find that door, especially with people with a chip on their shoulder.
A lot of the time, to get to people's feelings, all they need is someone to listen to them. Someone to know that, like, for them to know that that person is actually listening to you and not, looking off at the stars or, just daydreaming while you're telling you all the deepest feelings,
If more people listened, people wouldn't have to act, put up masks. It'd come naturally.
And the other day, I was quite worked up and stuff like that, and Taekwon just came up and said, look, man, if you want to talk or anything, just come over and I'm here and stuff like that. I've never heard that from a guy before. And so that's one thing that I'm now allowing myself to do, is to have that contact with guys and not think within myself, oh no, are these guys going to think I'm a fag?
It comes down to a sort of, I guess, for me, a basic respect level for somebody that, I don't need to impress them, because it's not doing them any favours impressing them. I'd be better off to know how they're feeling, because if I can understand someone in that way, then I can offer them a lot more than I could by being Mr. Super, the superhero for anyone.
My old man treated me like the soldier he thought I should be. I only saw him coming home tired, working hard so he wouldn't be fired. He never embraced me, just shook my hand so he could stay in command. Spending his life in a factory was the price he paid, caring for me. And so he'd drink, not to feel the pain, that was his way to try and stay sane.
The men who are often fathers today have experienced major changes in what society expects of them. How are they responding to these changes?
My father used to definitely dominate in our family, and I was probably brought up that way, but I guess I've changed because of the opportunity that women have got into, that you've sort of, you begin to understand that because they're working and they're earning as much money as what the men do, they've got to be equal.
I'm a computer programmer, and I try to combine that with being a father to my 2 children. Which can be quite difficult, really. It's a matter of trying to... That means leaves you with no other time to do much of anything else, actually. It's a combination of working and parenting and family life, and don't do much else at all. But it's very good, most enjoyable. I wouldn't miss it for the world. I really pity people from earlier generations who haven't been able to experience the real depths of family life.
We sit down and talk about it, and then we'll delay the decision. We talk about it again, and then come up to a decision. Yeah. Before it was the other way around. I used to say, I want to do this, and Josie never used to answer me, and it used to go for months and months before she'd say, oh yeah, okay. So that's the difference. I think you become closer together by talking about the problem and by coming up to a solution.
Well, I was working
for one of the government departments repairing motorcycles, and it was becoming very repetitious and boring. There was nowhere to go. My wife, Linda, was looking more at starting her own career, so I thought it would be, well, we both thought it would be a good idea to swap roles, and I thought the experience would be good for me, just to try something totally different than what I had done previously, and share looking after the kids. People around me thought it was pretty strange, most of them. They had a hard time accepting it, you know, to think that a guy would quit work and look after the kids. That was a woman's role. Just seeing them and being around them as an experience in life and changing. That's been good.
Well, I think you won that round.
So pay me $5.50.
I didn't have a father that I could turn to very easily and feel safe with, to talk to about problems or even to play with, you know. So I guess the way it affected me was to leave me feeling quite alone and isolated. I've consciously tried to be different with Miles. We do a lot of messing around and romping and wrestling, and he enjoys a lot of physical contact. And recognising that it wasn't good for me, I'm always pushing through the temptation to do the same with him. So I'm always trying to be as close to him as I can.
Probably a lot of average blue-collar type working guys would like the opportunity to try it themselves, but because of this macho, tough guy image, they wouldn't try it just because of the peer pressure. It's a pity they don't take the opportunity and try it, because it gives you a new outlook on life.
It's obviously not perfect, but I think that it's much better than it would be if I wasn't making this conscious effort to be close and to enjoy the physical contact. I think he's a lot more confident and a lot more active, a lot more trusting in his relationships with people, and yeah, he seems to be more of himself and more in touch with himself than I remember I was at that age. Oh, 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 oh.
Images of masculinity are changing, and each generation learns from the last. So what sort of fathers will our generation be?
Well, it'd be nice to have a kid, because, you know, it's a reflection of yourself in someone else, which is really good. But, like, I don't want one because it's too much hassle. And also, because you're living the life for them, you end up, you know, you lose your own life, and you've got a kid, you've got to look after him, you know, you got to settle down, all that kind of crap. Yeah, it's not me. I don't want it.
I'd be different to my dad as if I had kids, because, yeah, I'd talk to them more.
Respect, I reckon. Like, you respect your girlfriend or wife, and respect your child. This makes a good father. Treat them very good and get the same in return. Like I got treated very good. You know, I don't want to just be a father and just be go to the pub and that's it. Forget about the family. Stay with them, mate. No, I can't do that.
Well, basically, when I'm older, I'd like to make my kids happy and just be happy with them, like just talk to them and be able to talk to them as if you're pals and friends and that, and not be able to only speak to them when you're telling them off or telling them to do something or something like that. You've got to be able to speak with them as if they're humans and not your children, sort of thing. And that's basically the way my dad's been with me.
We're used to the isolation under the mask, yet with honest communication we can have lasting friendships. And let's face it, everyone needs real friends. I'm taking back a life worth living, where pleasure is receiving and giving, where being real is easy enough, feeling strong without playing tough. You know it's true, a lesson I've learned, that staying in touch says being burned, because then I know what's going on, not just out there, that's a con. But in here, man, where it really matters, if we can't feel, we tear the world to tatters. And in the 90s, that's gone far enough, cause I'm not caring, it's turning mighty rough. And you know, the only time I'm smart is when I dare to listen to this aching heart.